Hey, welcome back to Grit Gym. Today we're talking about something that comes before you talk about strength, before you talk about nutrition, before you talk about recovery, before you talk about health, before you talk about the whole thing. It's what you do after you start, but it's before you actually get into the action. You have to talk about this thing within your own head before you get going. And at Grit Gym, we always sit down people and we always ask them these certain questions along the way to get them. We ask them based on the goal, so I can't really get into it, the actual questions that we ask because they're all related to the goal. But these are the 5 things that you have to do to make sure that this thing comes first. Anyway, what I'm talking about is adherence, okay? And before we get into this, if you guys are coming on the live right now and you are here, please type, please type, let's say hashtag live, let's say hashtag team live, so TEAM live. Or if you're watching the replay of this, can you hashtag in hashtag team replay, just so I know that you are here. I'd really appreciate it. Hey, how's it going? But anyway, these are the things you have to do between the start and you actually doing something. You have to come to grips with these things first. And really it's just one. I don't know why I keep on putting a plural on it. But the number one thing, and this is interesting that it's coming out on Monday morning, but the number one thing is adherence. It is always going to be the number one thing. After the start, you have to have the courage to start. You have to make the commitment to do the thing. If you don't have the courage to start, we can't really work with much. And remember, you don't get courage before you do the scary thing, and then you get the courage as a byproduct of doing the scary thing. Okay? This isn't about not being scared. No fear is a stupid idea. There is the fear that you manage or the fear that manages you. And you have to have the courage to manage that fear, to get going, to start on this thing, and then you have to make the commitment because you're almost sure to be wrong. It's almost inevitable that you are going to be wrong on some level. You're going to start doing this thing, and I like to think that I'm a pretty good coach. We've had some pretty good success stories and stuff like that at Grit Gym. I know a lot about this stuff. I'm not saying that I've never failed, and if I did say that I've never failed, 1, I'd be lying, but also 2, that would make me a really bad coach. Okay, every time that I've failed, I've learned something from it, and you need to do the same thing. But I am committed. Okay, if you get committed, then you can renegotiate the guidance. Does that make any sense? So along the way, for instance, your strength coach is not going to be slapping the food out of your hand or handing you the food that you should be eating. You're going to have to do that. Your strength coach is going to tell you what and what not to eat, but usually in hindsight, after you've already done the thing. Okay, we have the most control over the exercises that we do. Okay, we know quite a bit about this thing. We know way more about strength and conditioning than we do about anything in the nutrition world. I guarantee you. We know way more about that than the mindset stuff, and we know way more about that than the recovery stuff. We know more about exercise than everything else, and that's not just me. That's just the universe, the known information in the universe so far with how our bodies roll. But you have to have adherence first. I cannot overstate this. I cannot overemphasize. I cannot overemphasize that you need adherence first. Okay? After you have the courage to start, after you've made the commitment to see this thing out to the end, because you're almost sure to be wrong, but because you made the commitment, you're going to readjust and you're going to go for that commitment, right? You have the goal that's over here, and maybe you started out with the vegan diet, or you started out with CrossFit, or you started out with something else that's stupid, and you readjusted and you said, okay, well, these things weren't the answer. They had some good stuff in here, but it wasn't what we wanted, okay? So we readjust and we try a new strategy to get to the goal. You're almost sure to be wrong up front. So why do you need adherence first? Well, because unless you start doing the thing, we can't do the thing. So 1, anything you do is going to get a result. Okay? Anything you do is going to get a result. You sit in a chair for 6 years, you get a result. You go work out, exercise every day for 6 years, you're going to get a result. No matter what, anything you do gets a result. Okay? Sit in a chair for 6 years, or you go and exercise every day for 6 years, you're going to get a result. You bench press every day for 6 years, you're going to get a banged up shoulder. That's going to be your result. You do snatches, cleans, and jerks every day for 6 years, you're going to get a banged up lower back, you're going to get a banged up shoulder, you're probably going to tear the labrum in your hip. You're probably going to have a lot of problems. We can basically bet on that. You try to do too many reps. You try to do rep after rep after rep every single day. You don't do the math of strength. You are going to get a result, and it's going to be bad. You work smart at this thing. You get guidance. You get a person to channel all your efforts, energies, and focuses in this direction, and it is direction that can help you, and you're going to get a result that is amplified, that amplifies everything else in the rest of your life. Remember, everything we do in Grit Gym is not to get better at the things that we do in Grit Gym. Everything that we do inside of Grit Gym is to enhance everything that you do outside of the gym. Okay? This is a very important distinction to make. I'm not trying to train people to be better at deadlifting and squats and pull-ups and chin-ups and stuff like that. That's going to happen. Okay? That's just going to happen. We're just going to get that as we go along. What I'm training people to do is to have better movement quality so that they can go out into their real life, and it's going to amplify everything that they do there. I do not train people to be better at exercise. I train people to be better able to go out and do the things that make them great. Okay, so 1, anything you do gets a result. Okay, number 2, everything works for 6 to 12 weeks if you do. If you put in the work, it's going to work for you, but only for 6 to 12 weeks. After that, the body has adjusted. The body has said, okay, we get what's going on here. We're going to stop. We're going to only adapt so far. Okay, after 6 weeks, after 6 to 12 weeks, things change. Your metabolism will catch up with the nutrition world. Your body will adjust to the strength gains that you're giving it. Everything in that 6 to 12 week window is just this awesome bonus. It's wonderful. You should take advantage of that. But there is a reason why all these diets, strength programs, challenges, all of these different things are 6 to 12 weeks. It's because your mind, most people can commit to something for 6 to 12 weeks and then they're done. Okay? It's very, very difficult for most people to stick it out past 12 weeks. It's very, very difficult to create a change after that first 6 to 12 weeks. This is something that Grit Gym has really prided itself on. The people here have grit and are able to be relentless in their pursuit of what they've set out for. Okay? That's why we named it that, because I wanted a name that kind of scared people away just a little bit, just enough that we would get the people that's like, this is what it takes. This is what it takes to be successful at what you're trying to do. It's going to take the character trait known as grit, a persistent and relentless drive to get to the thing. Okay, but it doesn't work beyond 6 to 12. Not everything works beyond 6 to 12 weeks. This is where we have to get into working smart instead of just working hard. This is where we have to do the math of strength. We have to do the math of strength. It does not work anymore to just sit there and pound it out. Not to make changes, not to go up in the world, that is. This is where we get into the success by design, not success by chance. 6 to 12 weeks is just success by chance. Everything works for 6 to 12 weeks. You go and do keto and you really stick to that for 6 to 12 weeks, I guarantee it's going to work, but I don't know if it's going to work beyond that. Most things work for 6 to 12 weeks. Almost everything works for 6 to 12 weeks, but not everything does. And how do we get a change beyond that? So we have to work smart. We have to start objectively looking at this thing. We have to analyze it. We have to do the math of strength. We have to quantitate it. We have to get smart, okay? And we have to design the success. Which takes me into number 3, consistency first. Okay, so consistency and adherence kind of go into play together, but you have to have this adherence. Amber and I were talking about this weekend. I'm kind of jumping ahead of my presentation here, but we were talking about that this weekend, about how we were talking about the vegetarian and the keto and the paleo and all these different diets out there, and most of them do work. I'm not going to say they don't work for fat loss or they work for the things that they're going for. The problem is adherence. You'd be amazed. You do my job for a few weeks, not a few months or a few years, a few weeks, and you will get people that literally come in and tell you that they eat sticks of butter. You will get people that come in and say that they were tired when they got home and they didn't know what to eat for breakfast or for supper, and so they settled for an entire loaf of frozen cookie dough that wasn't cooked. They ate cookies for dinner. Okay, you hear this kind of stuff. These are not people that can just go and massively change everything about their life and just go keto and eat nothing but butter and meat. These are not people that can go full vegan. Okay, some people can do that, and some people have a really hard time doing this stuff. So it is very important to get this adherence thing down. Adherence comes first, but we want consistency. We want to be consistent in our training. For instance, I said this the other day on the show when I was doing the foam rolling stuff. We could get, if you took and you foam rolled for 90 minutes once a week, would that be better than foam rolling for 5 minutes once a day? The 5 minutes once a day is going to beat the 90 minutes once a week. even though 5 times 7 is only 35. Okay, 35 minutes beats 90 minutes. How? Because the consistency. If you try to go into the gym and you only lift 1 day a week, well, you just pounded it out and got real sore, and you take a week off to recover, and then you just stay sore. Every time you go in, you just stay sore forever. And you wouldn't make any progress. You make a little bit of progress because remember, everything works for 6 to 12 weeks, but you would slowly but surely suffer. If you would have come in and done a little bit every single day, you would have been better off than just pounding it out once a week. So consistency first, and then second is intensity. I would rather you come in, go through the motions for 3 weeks, and then do 1 week super hard than to try to do every week super hard, because on that last week, you're going to suffer. Everything is going to suffer. Your movement quality is going to suffer. Your totals are going to suffer. You're not going to be able to lift the weights that we assign. It will not happen. You want consistency first, and you want intensity by design. Intensity comes up when we're having a very, very good day, and we do that by design because we have 3 weeks where we stay below our 1 rep max set. Okay, we stay below, well, at least 10% below max sets, and then we're able to go into that last week hard. Number 4, movement quality over movement of the bar. If you're just trying to move the heaviest bar possible, this is a mistake if you put this up front. A huge, huge mistake. If you put moving the heaviest weight in front of movement quality, you'll end up with neither a heavy weight nor movement quality. Okay? If you try to move the heaviest bar possible before you have movement quality, you will end up with an injury. You will end up with neither strength nor movement quality. This is a big, big problem. The fitness industry has ruined what I'm saying right now. They are terrible at this. This is why I introduced the math of strength, because I think there's probably maybe 1,000 strength coaches in the world that understand how big of a deal the math of strength really is, to quantitate and objectively look at this stuff and to stay below that number so that you can get more out of it. Everybody is trying to intense, because high intensity interval training has made this huge comeback in the last 10 years, and for some reason people think that this is the only way to train, and that if you only had 5 minutes, this is what you'd do. That's stupid. It's so stupid. However, if you put movement quality in front of or before moving the heaviest bar, you'll end up with both. You'll end up with movement quality and strength. Okay, you'll end up with the ability to do both. This is a big, big deal. You do not put moving the heaviest bar first. You put movement quality first, and then you will end up getting all of that other good stuff because you did so. And you have to adhere to that. If you don't adhere to that, you're in big, big trouble. Number 5 is appreciating the rest of the puzzle. The rest of the puzzle of health. Remember health? If we have health in the middle right here, then we have these offshoots that we can call them like 4 different, like wheels of a car. Let's say you have exercise, but exercise isn't all of health. We know that. You can be in extremely good shape and be very, very unhealthy. If you're over 30% body fat, you could be in extremely good shape and you're not very healthy. You could have 30%. What am I trying to say? You could be in extremely good shape and eat like crap. Are you healthy? You could be in extremely good shape. I've been here, extremely good shape, but you're only getting 4 hours of sleep every night. Are you healthy? No, I was miserable, man. I just felt like shit all the time. I was miserable, but I was in extremely good shape. I had an 8-pack. Okay, I could probably run a sub 5 mile, even though I didn't train for that. I was deadlifting well into the 500s. I was very, very strong. Not good health. Okay, exercise now is part of health, but it's not the whole picture. Now you go to nutrition. Can your nutrition be on point and your exercise be on point, and you're still very unhealthy? Yeah, of course. If you're not sleeping and your head's all messed up, I've been there. I've been there where my nutrition and my exercise was on point. It was so good, but I was only sleeping for 4 hours a night, and I was just about the most negative person you can imagine. I look back at like old social media posts, and I was like, oh my God, I was such a jerk, and I was just like, I was just in a lot of pain. So was I healthy? No. What about if you had your exercise on point, you had your nutrition on point, and you were adhering to a sleep schedule, you were relaxing for at least 15 minutes per day, and you were finding time to laugh. Well, maybe we're onto something here. Maybe we're onto something. We got all three. But what if your head is still messed up? That's where you got to have mindset, you got to have recovery, you got to have exercise, and you have to have nutrition to have a healthy life. And if you don't have a healthy life, you are missing out on all this stuff. Okay? You don't get to go out and get money, but you also don't get to enjoy that money if you don't have your health. You don't get to enjoy your relationships or have healthy relationships if you don't have your health. Think about it a little bit. You will not be able to enjoy your time or make good use of your time if you don't have your health. Your health is the first one, the very first one. So number 5 is the nutrition, recovery, and mindset. It's appreciating the rest of the puzzle. And nutrition and recovery, you already know enough to make better decisions. Okay? You're educated enough to know what to and what not to eat. There's going to be some specifics in there, some details that we go over with Amber in the nutrition course that I think are just dynamite. There's strategy that you might not know. There's different things that we can use to make this very much easier. But for the most part, you can make it real simple and say, you know enough to make better decisions. I do too. Okay, and it's also how far can you go with those decisions? Because I get being confused. Like, is it okay to eat ice cream once a week? Well, yes, of course it is. Is it okay to eat it every night? Probably not a very good idea. Now with the mindset stuff, so nutrition and recovery, do you know that you need to go to bed by 10? Yes, you need to go to bed at 10, wake up at 6. Go to bed at 10, wake up at 6. Go to bed at 10, wake up at 6. Every hour before midnight is worth 2 hours after midnight. If you don't have that rest in there, you're not getting the full benefit out of your exercise, your nutrition, or your life just in general. Because that's where all the magic happens. You get strong during recovery, you gain muscle during recovery, you lose fat during recovery. You don't do any of those during the gym. You don't do any of those when you're eating. You don't do any of those in the gym. You do them during recovery. And mindset is one of those things I encourage everybody to go through the 3 C's. You have to have the courage to look. You have to have the courage to acknowledge the thing. You have to commit. Okay? And commitment doesn't mean obligation. For the majority of my life, I would have looked at commitment like it was an obligation. That if I was to commit to, like, let's say in a relationship, if I was going to commit to a Rachel, a girl, let's say, that I would be obligated to be with her for the rest of my life, and I don't want to do that. Who wants to do an obligation? But if I look at it different, if I change my framework, if I say, for one, if I look at it from a positive standpoint, that you can do more together than you could have ever when you were apart, and you get this, like beyond the sharing, you get to grow within, your growth is so much more. Like not just you get to do more things, but you get to be more because you get this, you get this bonding, sharing sort of weird thing that happens that no one ever told me about. I had to go and hire coaches to learn this stuff. But I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it like an obligation. Now I look at it as commitment. When I look at it as a commitment, the way that I look at commitment now, I leave no other option. I am committed. There is no other option. Either we fix the thing or I die. That sounds like dramatic and like cheesy and cliche, but that's the difference. It's like you have no other option. Okay? And when you have no other option, well, she starts to look a lot better, right? Or your husband starts to look a lot better when you don't have a lot of other options. Like if the only thing to eat on the table is the only option, all of a sudden it looks a little tastier. Maybe too far there. I wonder what she'll say about that one. But anyway, mindset stuff. The third one is that you have to confront the errors. I think that's probably the biggest one in the mindset thing. Probably one of the biggest ones in the mindset thing is confronting the errors. I think a lot, like I have trouble doing it. Everybody does. Because you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame, right? If you can't see you. And so you end up doing this thing where you don't even know that you're playing out this story that's your own narrative, and then you're laying down, and that story could be sabotaging everything that you want. It could be sabotaging the love, the happiness, the fun, the laughs, the health, the wealth, the relationships, and the time. Anyway, nutrition, recovery, mindset, exercise are the four cornerstones of health. And if you don't get adherence, like if you started this thing, you had the courage to start, and you committed to a goal, great. We're on to something. Now we have to adhere to what we actually set out to do. Adherence is a huge, 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 huge thing. You'd be amazed how many people we see where it's just like adherence is the thing that gets in the way. It's a very, very common thing. So what are they? After the start and the commitment, then comes the adherence. We have to get clear on that we're going to do this thing no matter what. We are committed to doing this thing. We have no other options. Now we're going to adhere to that thing. We're going to do it. I typed in, I meant to do this earlier. What is the definition of adherence? Anyway, well, that's taking a little while, but anything you do gets a result. So if you sit in a chair or you go exercise, both of those get a result. Choose the one that you want. 2, everything works for 6 to 12 weeks if you do. So after that 6 to 12 weeks, what are you going to do? You have to work smart, okay? If you're just working hard, you're missing out. Number 3 is consistency first and intensity by design. Don't put intensity ahead of consistency. And if you put the moving the heaviest weight possible in front of movement quality, you'll end up with neither a heavy weight nor movement quality. But if you put movement quality first before moving the heaviest bar, you'll end up with both the ability to move with a high amount of quality and joint integrity, and you'll be able to move the heaviest bar that you can. Number 5, appreciate the rest of the puzzle. Nutrition, recovery, mindset. You have to have those. And the biggest thing I think with these is you already know enough to make better decisions. But anyway, that's Monday. Thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. Please like, comment, share. If you have any comments or questions or anything like that, I'd love to hear from you. But anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Rachel and Adam Show.